Welcome to the Creative Loop first AMS series. I'm Momina Latif. I'm a creative director here at Front Matter. We have been running like a monthly webinar series, and this is our new series where we're trying to connect a larger audience to design leaders, design practitioners, and have a candid chat with them, answer your questions. And today, I'm actually like super excited to have Faizan here in our first session. Faizan is joining us to talk about generative AI in the South Asian context, and we'll be touching on language, tools, workflows, etc.
Hi, I'm Faizan. I am a service designer and a design researcher. I've been working in this space for, I think, around eight and a half years. And a lot of this has been around, in the industries of financial inclusion and healthcare, some agri-tech stuff, lots of, social protection work around gender. So like dabbling, because I work a lot with with the consultancy, so whatever clients comes in, so we sort of work with that, but a lot of just generally design research and participatory research work. So this is the more work side of things, but like when client work just gets too boring, or you always need some sort of a creative outlet. So I also try to write every now and then, like short fiction वगैरह. I recently bought a camera, so I'm like really into photography these days. And then part of that was also just exploring AI and generative AI and like what that is like, and how we can come to that later, but also just like trying to explore how we can represent like local context and surrealism in that. This like dabbling into multiple different things, just like wherever my mind goes at whatever time of the year. So yeah.
To me, all of your work has this central theme of community that is reflected throughout, no matter what you're doing. So I think I want to start off here that, how did community become a central theme for you? And did it naturally make its way into your work with AI as well, or was it more intentional?
Mm-hmm. So I think just the aspect of community, and you mentioned Dindhale. So for people who don't know, Dindhale is basically it's supposed to be a monthly sort of gathering in parks, public spaces, especially parks, to just, strangers to come together and play board games and like, storytelling वगैरह होती है. So like very low key, chill space for just people to meet each other, people to meet people with similar interests, make friends hopefully, and then, find, if you want to work on something together, so you find people to do that. So it was like whatever you wanted that space to be, that would become for you. And that sort of I did not have this idea कि मैंने ये सब कुछ इसी तरह से करना. It was sort of like a series of small things. I just wanted, more people to hang out in parks. So that started, and then I was like, okay, people are hanging out. How about we, connect people to each other? So उसमें वो एक layer आ गई about meeting people, and then people were like asking for, okay, up next वाला कब होगा, and like what else are you doing in this? So then that community element sort of just evolved into it. So it wasn't कि शुरू से plan किया था कि ये community करना है. But over time, people sort of just know the Hindale, okay, it's a community, some things happen under it. We also partner with different sort of, organization वगैरह every now and then. So that is where the community element came into play. And then I had a lot of fun just, building communities and trying to see, okay, well, what are the things in any community event या कोई भी चीज that makes people connect or like keep coming together or asking for, okay, what's the next one happening, or like इसमें और क्या क्या हो रहा है. So there was just like lots of just experimenting and seeing. It wasn't that I knew कि community किस तरह से बनती है and all of that. So that just naturally then transcended or like went down into all the other things that I started to do. And उसी में फिर AI के through, so it wasn't like a very direct connection, but I can see because I sort of, ground my work, whatever I have done, in very like local settings, and like community, like showing the South Asian context that we know of. What if there was like a surreal sort of layer to it, or like a magical layer to it? Because I did not want to use AI as just like just like a fun thing that putting Kylie Jenner in like Pindi streets or like all those things. I wanted to if I'm doing this, so like some sort of story ho uske piche, even if the story is not like, it doesn't have to be impactful, but like some sort of what are you seeing in this picture? And then over time, then people also just got to know this is someone who does these repeatedly, and then there's like he focuses on the same thing. So I think that sort of repeat pattern, okay, having the same thing over and over again, that just sort of builds the community element into it.
So it was like, to me, it seems it was more sort of like testing the waters out to see if you can generate something, right? But for us, like when we use AI, I think at this point everybody is familiar. So there's a lot of the models are trained on Western data, right? So how much of a challenge was it to get all of these models to generate like South Asian imagery?
Yeah. So it was quite challenging, but also easy in a way. So I use Midjourney. I have not explored too many other ones. I tried ek do dafa, but again, because you have to pay subscription to get anything useful out of it. So I was like, I'm not paying for multiple tools. I'll just stick to one. And uske andar, so I started with, I think when they had the fifth version, I think up 7th version hai. So fifth pe, interestingly, it would be very random about what it gets right and what it gets wrong. Like I couldn't pinpoint it's like ye wali cheez sahi chalegi, or like this one will not work well. So it was around, I would be like, okay, Pakistani person, or like Lahore streets, and this is this. And then it would be generating like very Indian centered characters and places. Like you could see a woman wearing saris or like bindis, even with like men or like children. So you could tell, because we are from South Asia, so we know, okay, there's like, you can tell the difference between a Pakistani person and like an Indian person, because features mein thoda sa difference hota hai. So you could tell, this is not like what I want. So it would just be like, generating like multiple ones and trying to tweak the prompt and seeing, okay, what works, what doesn't work. Especially it would get the clothes wrong a lot of the time. It still gets the clothes wrong. Like it doesn't understand what shalwar kameez is, or like what the dupatta is. It just, I could go on and on about just like what it's getting wrong and why it's also stereotyping, because every time you write Pakistani woman, it would show a woman in like a burqa or like just like very covered up, and you have to very prompt it, okay, a contemporary Pakistani woman or a Pakistani woman without a dupatta, and then it would either go like completely modern, like in a pen shirt, or like completely covered up. There was like no in between. So वो काफी tricky होता था to get those things right, and then over time just like learning, and अब तो थोड़ा बेहतर हो गया, the 7th model they have, but it's still continuously it just can't get the clothes right. So I have to be very careful about if it looks like shalwar kameez, so I crop it right, कि नीचे से पता न चले कि it's just one gown. So these sort of tricks I have to sort of play in.
How much post-production work does go into it? Because I feel like a lot of people have this idea that, we'll put in a prompt into a generator and it will automatically just give a very beautiful image out. But not many people understand that there's a lot of like back and forth between you and the generator, right? That you're fixing, and then there's a lot of like fixing things on your end, like outside of your prompt.
Yeah, so post-production, so I don't go very specifically around छोटी-छोटी चीजें change करनी है, because I don't also want it to look very real. I want it to look like AI, because I'm not trying to recreate the real world. I want it to have that this is surreal, this is not real, this is AI. So I think that also works in my favor, कि अगर कोई चीज थोड़ी सी और लग भी रही है, it's fine, because my intention is not to make like a completely realistic sort of thing. But फिर उसके अंदर the most of the post-production is like just cropping things right, and then also some color correction, because again, shuru wale models mein it couldn't get so my work is very like, I work a lot with pastel colors, like sort of muted colors hote hain, they're not very loud, they're not very saturated. So usko thoda sa karne mein, so I would just tweak the colors a bit. But in terms of getting the thing right, कि image में आपको क्या चाहिए, that's just lots of prompting back and forth. ये वाली bond नहीं चल रही, next wali chalao, like tweak some words around. But sometimes it's also just running the same prompt again, because it just sort of turns out a different image every time you prompt the same thing. So sometimes it's just that you want the general feel to it, one thing is odd out of the entire thing, so you just sort of prompt it again and feel and hope you get what you want. And that's more or less it, like, because I'm also not like looking for something exactly what I have in mind. A lot of the times I have just like overall idea कि कोई एक चीज हो रही है, so this is the like I want a Lahore street with like large candles in it, or like pastel colored peacocks, and that's my वो. and then I let the AI just decide how to fill that scene up. So it's like it's just a matter of kisko, like if as soon as I see an image that I'm like, okay, this is fine, then I don't go beyond that to get what I want.
Our most asked question was that what tools do you use? And you've already like shared that you use Midjourney. Are there any other tools that you have been testing, or have you at this point, tried to train a model in the South Asian language, more specifically like Pakistani and the attire, the sort of attire, etc., that you're talking about?
So I haven't explored. I sort of used Gemini and ChatGPT, they are really bad at just images. Up to thode better ho gaye, but you can't get the sort of images I want out of it. So Midjourney, when I started, it was known as like the best image generator in terms of the stylization. It would also apply to it because it had that just built-in surrealism to it. Just because uski colors, the way it renders an image was slightly different from other models. I haven't explored too much. I did try to explore video with what's that? I forgot the name of that one. It's a popular one. But usme maine kiya tha, but also again, I used up my free credit, so I couldn't try it more. And again, I was like, I'm not spending too much money on like multiple subscriptions. And I just waited. So I didn't work on video until recently. Jab Midjourney, I did like a video thing.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I will have the subscription, so then I can try out kya karna hai. So that's the sort of models I use. And in terms of training it, so Midjourney has these things called mood boards now. So that sort of has cut down my work in terms of prompting a lot, because I have generated like a lot of images in the styles that I want. And what you can do is that you can create certain mood boards. Say, this is one mood board, you can name it whatever you want, and you can have unlimited mood boards, I think. And you can then reference the mood board with every prompt. Okay, this is a prompt, use the sort of styles and colors and the photos or images in this mood board. So mood board mein sari cheezein already hain. I add the right images in it and I just reference the mood board and it knows ki acha is tarah ke style mein banana hai. So my prompts are now shorter. I don't prompt too much on colors is tarah ki honi chahiye, or Pakistani streets honi chahiye, etc. I focus on the scene itself, and that also helps in the way, because the longer your prompt is, the more chances of it getting lost in translation, because it has so many things to depict, right? So the shorter your prompts is, the more impactful and the more sort of weight it has. That's I've sort of just learned it over time. So that the mood board has been super, super helpful in terms of getting the sort of images you want.
So like that really helps in sort of building a continuous workflow despite I would say new updates or new tools coming into the market. You're sort of like sticking to Midjourney and just what you have. In a way, you have also trained it to think that way, right? Your mood board.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think there's just one really interesting bit that you said, that you don't want your images to look real. You want them to look like, they have been generated. This is a very important distinction, because a lot of people come from a place that, they need very realistic images. And understandably, your work is within surrealism. So you get that. But what's your general sort of like consensus on it? Like, should AI be copying designers? Are we like, how do we set ourselves apart from AI?
So I think my personal work does not, because ek to surrealism ki layer hai, so you can immediately tell that it's not a real thing. But I do understand that the application of AI are like much beyond that. People are using it for like entire ad campaigns and entire branding वगैरह set करने के लिए. I don't have any like sort of strong opinions on करना चाहिए नहीं करना चाहिए, because I feel like this is here to stay. Like I don't see this like reversing. However much we make a case for it, that this is not right, and like it's bad for the planet, it's bad for like artists and copyright. I don't think the companies that are working on this will take this back, because as long as it's making them money, they will do it, unless it turns out that 5 years down the lane, all the investment was not worth it and it's not giving them return, then maybe usko roll back ho. But I see it as something that's fair to say, so we have to just get with it and just come to terms with the fact कि ये हो रहा है. I do feel like, again, because there is that entire discussion around it's stealing artists' work, and then it's using so much energy and all of that. I won't defend it, because these are problems, and it'd be just hypocritical of me to still use it and then also be defending it. I just have my sort of guardrails in terms of not infringing upon anyone's work. So I myself, like if you see my prompts, I don't reference it, in the style of XYZ photographer or in the style of XYZ artist. I just use my own prompt, wherever it goes, it goes. So I'm not trying to, copy someone's work in that sense. I know it's still trained on their data, but it's my way of rationalizing. At least I'm not very consciously trying to copy someone's work and all of that. Yeah.
So a follow up to that, what would you say as somebody who practices with AI very regularly? What would you say are ethical considerations that we should prioritize when integrating AI into our projects, be it work projects or personal projects? I think with work projects, you don't have a lot of freedom to control what tools, etc. you're using. But whenever you're using it for your own purposes, for putting your work out there, what are some things that you should take into consideration and, just from an ethical values point of view, you should consider?
Yeah. So I think I mentioned that don't intentionally try to reference other people's work and tell it, make me or something from this artist style. Or give it images that are all from the same artist to reference, because you can do that with a lot of models now, that you give them a set of images and create something like that. You can obviously you can reference your own images or random images that are not from the same artist. You want to give a certain feel to it. Public domain mein jo artists hote hain, from a while ago, Van Gogh वगैरह, that's still fine because there's no copyright issues with that. So एक तो ये चीज होगी in terms of not copying someone's work. I think the other thing is that if you, and this may not apply to a lot of us, but there are still some groups out there who might be using AI to deceive people or create misinformation and use very realistic images of things that they should not be doing, because again misinformation hoti hai and then people believe things quite quickly. So even if you're using it as satire or just a joke, people don't always know this is AI or this is not AI. So just be careful about what you're doing in that sense. When you come to sort of outside of art or outside of visual and more textual stuff, I think for me, or a lot of people that I know who use AI, it's that if you're writing something or using that to write something down, for me it has never worked, because obviously I have my own style of writing, and मैं जितना भी उसको कर दूं कि style में लिखो, it will never produce what I wanted to. There would always be edits going into it. Otherwise, again, you can tell that this is written by AI. So just for your own sake, just don't give it something कि मुझे ये लिख के दो and then use it as it is. You can always use it as a brainstorming partner or this sort of co-pilot where you're bouncing ideas off of each other. So that is what I do. I'm thinking of this thing. What are some ideas? How could I go about this? Or this is what I'm thinking. How do I flesh this out? So the original thought is always from me, that this is what I want or this is what I'm thinking. I just use it to give me more pointers or how to flesh that out further or give it some sort of a structure. Because a lot of the time I have all these random thoughts that go 10 different ways, and I just wanted to put it a coherent structure or coherent flow to things. And again, not using something that's directly written by AI and just passing it off ki maine kiya hai. Yeah.
Thank you for elaborating on this, because this was also one of my questions that, we do use it a lot for content, and this is a conversation that I've heard from a lot of people as well who use AI sort of regularly and use it well. Okay, never use it, directly. You use it as a partner sort of thing. The initial prompt, like you said, should come from you. The initial idea should come from you, and the end result should also come from you. It's not strained through AI. It needs to have that human element, your original thought process weaved into it. What are the current barriers and with AI, specifically in the South Asian context, since not a lot of people are practicing with AI within the South Asian context? I think
the first barrier that I also had, and I see a lot of people now, because there are so many tools out there and so much information suddenly coming up कि ये वाला tool इसके लिए use करो और इस तरह से prompt करो, and especially the prompting thing, you must see LinkedIn पे हर रोज कोई report आ रही होती है that you using ChatGPT wrong, this is the way to prompt it. I think the more you get into that, how to prompt the correct way, the more difficult it will get, because you'll be getting 10 different versions of how to prompt something. my way of just going about it was that I was like, I can't get into all of this. कि इसमें एक prompt में ये होना चाहिए, ये होना चाहिए, ये होना चाहिए. I'm like, I'll just try to explain what I have in mind and see if that gives me the result I want. So I think the biggest sort of just getting into it is just, just start off and just see, whatever you have in your mind, this could be, this is the prompt that I could have. Just base off of that and start there and then see where it's taking you. And don't think too much about, what are people saying around what's the best prompt to write and how to get the best out of, all of these different tools. And then in terms of tools also, because a lot of the time when we're at this stage where things are evolving so quickly, like every other month is a new update and all of that. So a tool that you start with today, it might turn out 6 months down the lane, you might want to switch to another tool. Or like, you'll be like, oh, wo wala acha kar raha hai, ye wala acha nahi kar raha. I have stuck to Mid-Journey since like, I think 2 saal pehle I started just like experimenting, and it has like just been great for me, because also you if you use the same tool, just start with whichever tool you think you sort of vibe with, or iska interface आसान लग रहा है आपको, or like whatever other reason. So just take whatever you think works fine for you and stick with it, because the more you learn that tool, the better you will at just creating images, right? Versus if you 6 महीने आपने इस पे लगाया, 6 महीने इस पे लगाया, it will take a while for you to learn what sort of prompting and what sort of just directions work for which model, because they all work slightly differently. So this is the second thing I would say, stick to a model, just go with it, and it's not it won't be like as bad you would want to move to others.
I think like what I've seen is with every sort of like AI generative model, there's ways to kind of like get the best possible prompt, or like put the prompt in a way that it reads it more accurately. For Mid-Journey specifically, what are some foolproof methods to get your prompt really accurate?
So the way it works for me is that I keep this description at the center. I'll see if I can try to share it while you ask me the next question. But like for now, it's basically, so you say, okay, let's say there was an image I created around like pastel colored peacocks, right? So that would be my first phase, okay, peacocks in Lahore, and then I would add a comma, and then like, Fujifilm style, or pastel colors, Mughal setting. So your main thing about what you want the entire scene to be around, that goes at the start, and then all the aesthetics of it, the colors of it, and what sort of elements you want in it, that's the second part of the prompt for me. Okay, pastel hona chahiye, Fujifilm hona chahiye, light should be natural light, because a lot of times what happens is that it would give me images that are very contrasty, very punchy, very saturated, and I don't want that. And it's also very very professional camera looking, with like with what's it called, depth of field, when the main character is in focus and like piche sara kuch blur hota hai, which looks very unrealistic, unless it's like very
stocky.
It's like it's not my style, and I think it doesn't give the feel I want. So my images, most of them are like all in focus, because you're getting the entire scene, get to what's happening in it. So that would be my all in focus, and then these sort of descriptors about what you want the photo to look like, the second part, and first part is just ho kya raha hai scene ke andar.
Faizan, you have done a lot of your work in a social setting, like especially your research work as a service designer. How do you feel about design's intersection with AI and social impact? Like, AI's interaction with like social impact and design, and where do you feel like it could go next? Specifically in like areas where you have worked, for instance, like banking, right? So do you feel like there's a future over there as well?
I think definitely there is a future, because again, AI has and will continue to get all the information there is for the world, and it sort of condenses or synthesizes that in terms of what you want out of it. I think currently, again, because it's not really trained too much on South Asian data, or like even if it's trained, so one problem we also have is that even if it's trained on our data, we just don't have enough data, right? About यहाँ के लोगों के behaviors क्या हैं, like what are the problems they have. It's more or less on a surface level. There's not like deep research on it. So like it has nothing to train that self on, right? So it'll take a little while around it if you want to get to a point where you ask it, okay, this is a problem, how do you solve it for our context? Because I try every now and then, koi client ka project hota hai, or like some even personal stuff, this is a problem, or this is a specific thing I want like answers on, like, I'm trying to think of ideas. And like I know okay, those ideas it gives me will not work in the context that I'm working in, because they're meant for like a different audience, or like they're meant for a setting जहाँ पे सब कुछ अच्छे से चलता है, you get the data you need from people. But I do feel like the more it evolves, the more it gets trained, and the more sort of localized AI models we come up with, because I feel like one of the next steps, I don't know, it could be completely wrong, but to sort of make it more useful, AIs need to have like a very contextualized model. Sometimes this model will work for, let's say, the developing world, or like this part of the world, because it's trained very well on those settings. So I think that could be a direction if AI and all these companies take, that could be really useful, because then you're not working with all the entire world's data, but just for the data that really you operate in. Abhi ke liye, I think I don't think I use it very frequently for like social impact stuff. I just still use it for any ideas, because sometimes it happens कि वो 10 ideas देगा, उसमें से एक कोई I'm like okay, something can work out of it. Which is one thing that I would also do. Like if I want like it to give me 2-3 ideas, I would ask it to give me 20 ideas, because then it gets to like those 2-3 out of that long list.
Last question from me is, imagine you could develop or train a single AI model specifically for South Asia. What would its function be, and which group would it benefit the most?
That's an interesting question, and I've never thought about this before. Not
my own. I'm just going to call it out. This is from one of our attendees.
Okay. I don't. What would I create? I think so. The problem I have is again just getting the people right. Okay, you show the faces that look like Pakistani faces, you show clothing that looks like Pakistani clothing. So I'm again, because I work more on visual side of things, so I'm again giving the answer from a visual perspective, to just train it on like Pakistani people, or like just at least know the difference. If you're prompting the Pakistani person, so it's different from what the Indian audience looks like. Our clothes are different, our settings are different, and you can also tell sometimes if I would say streets of Lahore, so you could have like a very Indian looking bus in it, because you could tell it has, because Indian school buses have a different colors and all of those things. Or if they have like a very Western looking bus, जो yellow color की जो buses, school buses होती हैं.
School buses.
I feel like this is not like, you get the rest of it right, why you're getting this one thing wrong, right? So just like,
we want vans with like a lot of bags hanging from the back.
like W11 हमें दिखाओ, like with like stuck out on it and all of those things. So just getting the setting and the context right, and not having to prompt it over and over again to get it right. I think that would be one thing.
I think, guys, we're also at time. Thank you so much, Faizan, for being here. Thank you, everybody who joined our call and for deep diving into like your process, your workflows, etc. I'm pretty sure there's like everybody has a lot to take away. I personally learned a lot, and I'm like tempted to go and give it a shot by myself as well. But thank you so much, Faizan. I hope everybody else also stays tuned for future sessions within this series as well. Really looking forward to see you guys again. Thank you so much, Faizan, and thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you. It's always great to talk about your work. So this is great. Thank you.